us a subtitle.
Yeah, I guess what we're calling is esports culture and community, with a big emphasis on just the community, which is the players, the teams, the organizations that run events, and of course the fans, which is arguably the most important part of the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
And esports is in a really cool spot right now because esports is very young, but esports is also getting to an age where it's starting to feel defined. And in a way, I feel like we've got companies that want to break that definition. And
sure.
I'm talking about you, Overwatch League. That's you're essentially trying to break the mold and bring it to be more like traditional sports. So I kind of want to take a look back at kind of where these various esports industries or communities have started and why they are the way they are, why what their format is works so well.
So let's get some backstory first. Let's set the scene.
Okay.
Your personal experiences with esports. You're a commentator, host. You've worked primarily in Heroes of the Storm, so that was your...
So I started way back in 2006 as a Melee player. Played a lot of Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
From there, I went to work with Major League Gaming running events. Kind of fell in love with StarCraft 2. I ended up working as a producer with MLG on a variety of shows.
So you've been through
I've worn a lot of different hats.
Okay.
Tournament administration, production. And when I was at MLG, they did a show called the Esports Report, which was essentially like SportsCenter, like a daily show covering all esports. And they just wanted people in the office to come in, hop on camera, talk about Smash Brothers, fighting games, Blizzard games. And I'm like, that's what I love, that's what I know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I got into the talent side of things and started casting heroes and so on.
And so you have done truly almost all sides of the spectrum in terms of production. I mean, you're probably missing a marketing and a couple of other ones, but you've seen your fair share.
Yeah.
And that's led you to kind of feel ready to talk about the fact that there is, what was the word you used? You think esports is starting to reach a...
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a lot of scenes that really feel like they're defined. And they know what they are, they know what they're supposed to be. And, Smash Brothers is a really good example because I've been involved in that scene since the beginning. That's a game that died, right? Like, they released Brawl in 2008 or 9, and, 2010 MLG actually hosted a circuit for Super Smash Brothers Brawl. The game, Nintendo did not want it to be an esport. They literally would not let us broadcast the game at MLG.
Right.
So Smash just kind of died off, and a documentary came out in, I think, 2013, 2014, and we've seen a huge surge. Team Liquid, Dignitas, you name it, every organization is picking up players, and the rest is history, right? Smash is huge nowadays. But over the years, we saw so many different formats attempted throughout that game, and we see different formats and league structures for all different kinds of games.
And you cherish that? You consider that?
I think it's super interesting to see such diversity in this one ecosystem of esports that really kind of builds each community.
I'm just going to quickly push some wires in so I can... I've just kind of got a voice in my head right now. And I'm kind of losing my mind, but it's fine. So we're going to carry on. I'm just going to take this out of my ear for us a little bit. No, but as you were saying before, so Smash having all of this lots of different people trying to find the winning formula. Would that be a way to describe it?
Yeah, in a lot of senses. Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it.
Okay.
But
and so how does that link then? So
let's just kind of like look at the overall spectrum.
Yeah.
You look at Korea. Korea is Brood War as the foundation, right?
Well, they did it first.
They did it first. They really had that nice central hub of Seoul, where studios like GOM and OGN were able to bring the players in and do the studio environment, where it's just like an awesome show, the players are on site, and it feels like an amazing product. And we've seen that replicated in North America in recent years with LCS, RLCS, OWL, HGC to an extent.
Building on that framework.
Building on that studio environment where it's basically a league that is owned by the publisher at this point, right? Which I think works really well, right? LCS is phenomenal. Very heavy-handed. They control everything. They know what they want.
But it is polished as hell.
And it's an amazing product.
Yeah, it is.
Right? So we've got that. Then you got Valve, huge company, opposite spectrum. They say, hey, look, we're going to do our Super Bowl once a year, the international, right? And we're going to have our premieres, but majors and minors, and they give all different kinds of people in the industry a chance to make their mark, which creates competition between organizers, which creates more opportunity for the teams and players, and also creates more live audience opportunities for the actual viewer. So in a way, I think that's better. right?
prefer that.
In a way, right? For if you're a fan and you want a chance to go watch an event, you're more likely to be able to attend a LAN in your country or in a country or a state near you in that format than to have to fly to LA to go to the LCS studio to watch live.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only real flaw in the LCS format.
Okay, I see. But you're jumping all over the place in terms of fan engagement.
Sure.
So let's focus on that for a minute.
Yeah.
Because the conversation is this, everyone's doing it differently. Valve, it's like, if you love our game, you're going to buy a ticket to Seattle and you're coming to TI. That's your way to witness this game at its peak.
At its peak.
With Smash, it's much more like, just come hang out, we've got the sofa and we're playing this game. And then, of course, you also have a huge stacked arena. Everyone's there for the big Evo, right?
Yeah, Smash is very grassroots. There's super
like
majors, it's all over the place. And
the
FGC in general is like that,
Yeah, so there's so much diversity in that regard. But in terms of fan engagement, you were talking about the fact that like with Overwatch League, you can, eventually they're going to be expanding and you're going to end up just like going to your city to support them, and it's more accessible. We're talking about the accessibility.
So there's two sides of it actually, and I think Overwatch League is, the best word is ambitious. It's turbo ambitious. It's really cool because yes, there's going to be accessibility, but then there's also as a fan, you can just say, I'm from New York and I'm a fan of NYXL, straight up. And I feel like that's something that doesn't translate that well for North American esports, especially in team-based games, as much as you get in, say, in your like single-player games, it's not a problem, right? If you know a player that's from Japan, you're a Japanese citizen, that's what you're going to root for.
Yeah, sure.
But I think having both those elements of being a fan of a team, but also being able to attend that local event are really impactful and really important.
Yeah, I mean, that you consider that shaking it up. Like this approach of like, you're going to have a city to support. Like, no one's done that before.
No, it's traditional sports.
Yeah, and no one's done that in this space before.
Yeah.
So you're watching that with a beady eye then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about it?
It's really interesting. I think I like the idea and the discussion. I do think it's ambitious is the biggest word I'd use.
Definitely.
Like it's like holy crap. I don't know. Is that a naughty word in America?
Oh, that's perfectly acceptable.
Holy crap. But like it's a big one. You're committing so much and to one game in particular, and yet I'm watching it with both eyes open because no one's ever tried this.
So
no one's ever even could come close to trying this in an esports world.
I think that's where we got to be worried, or at least cautious, is when you say one game in particular, right?
Yeah.
You've got teams like Cloud9, where Jack Etney has actually gone and created a new team, London Spitfire, but there's no cross-promotion in that. Like, you've always had the benefit of Cloud9 fans they started with League of Legends, transitioning to liking Mango and Melee, transitioning to liking the Cloud9 team in Heroes of the Storm, and that kind of player base moving from one team to the next has always been, in my opinion, one of the biggest strengths of esports, period.
Yeah, I mean, with that fandom, like there are now, probably over the last 5 years, a lot more of those type of fans.
Absolutely.
Like if you're an Optic fan now, you'll drop in, and I regularly have conversations with people like, oh yeah, no, I only started watching like because I was a big Optic Call of Duty fan, and then I ended up supporting them, and then I ended up finding a completely different team I liked, but I ended up watching Counter-Strike because I was an Optic fan.
Yeah.
And like, so those organizations hold a lot of power, which, I mean, you see, like it's kind of, it doesn't feel like they're running parallel when, I'm a Cloud9 fan and we work on all these games, and then they have to go under a different name and everything else. So it's an interesting kind of, I don't know how that works. Where does the power lie? That's an interesting one.
That's the crossroads we're at.
Yeah.
Right? Where is the baseline going to be? Because if the format that Owl is doing becomes the most successful and the best for the ecosystem, does Team Liquid ultimately move in, right? Dignitas is still a standalone team, but they're owned by the 76ers, right? So now Dignitas has been moving all their players to North America. I've always looked at them as a UK organization, right? They, Odie, they started that, and it's, they've always been a UK org, but now they've got a place in Newark, New Jersey, and it's different.
Okay. So let's kind of summarize where we've got to so far. The ecosystem has a lot of variety, which is something we cherish, and then following on from that, it's more about how everything. Yes, there's diversity, but this is the the Overwatch League is an example of we continue to expand, we continue to try and do new things, but this is a big, this affects more than just Overwatch. Is that what you're suggesting?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it has the potential to really propel the industry forward, but it also has the potential, if it fails, which I think it's already proven it hasn't failed, so I guess we're past that point.
Sure.
But it might scare away some investors in the event that Overwatch has some kind of tragic fallout. And granted, Overwatch is doing great. I think it's already proven to be very successful. They've announced, if you haven't heard, by 2020 they want every team to have their own home arena, right? They just had that first home game, and 2020 is a year away.
That's crazy to me. Like, that seems almost impossible to comprehend.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
It does. But we're getting a little sidetracked. So
yes.
So let's.
I'm good at that.
Yeah, we are. We're just gonna have a conversation, I'm afraid. Talking about the different games and these different ecosystems, can we just cover them a little bit? So we touched on Smash, very kind of grassroots was the word you used. Then you've got the LCS, this polished, very buttoned up, but well executed approach to competition.
Yep.
You know, where does Counter-Strike fit into all of this? That's an open circuit.
Yeah, CSGO and Dota is what I would call traditional esports. That is what esports was from the beginning, where a game is created and basically shipped, right? We didn't have balance patches all the time. Like Brood War became one of the best esports of all time. Warcraft 3, CS, 1.6, like all these games that were around for a long, long time. Those events were ran by WCG, MLG, ESL, all these original organizations that were just running their own tournament, trying to be better than the other companies. And I think that's part of the power there, is you have production teams and event organizers that are one-upping each other or doing their best to be the best in the space, which, in my opinion, is in a lot of ways the best for the player. Yeah. Because everybody's trying to have that bigger prize pool, everybody's trying to have that bigger opportunity, and in a way it's kind of slowed down and normalized nowadays.
Okay, here's a follow-up question. Curveball coming your way.
Uh-oh.
Do you believe there is a one-to-one correlation between prize money and prestige?
10 years ago, yes.
Yeah.
Nowadays, no.
Okay. It does, because in my mind, as of late, I've started to see, it feels like people see, TI is this mountain, you can't overcome it. This is, TI is hyped because of the money. The money brings the hype, in a way.
And it definitely does.
Yeah, 100%. These guys, the Sumail story, this 16-year-old kid from Pakistan's a millionaire if he wins this game. He's going to, bring his family to America. Yeah. This is it, life-changing stuff. That's
Beautiful
why TI
story.
is exciting.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a lot of competitions now where there is millions and there is six figures and they're thrown around, and
we got to talk about Fortnite. $100 million over there,
Was it 100 bill?
Yeah.
Is that the number?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
It's a B, not an M?
It's a lot of money. I think it's for the whole season, but I don't even look at that as a real number though.
Sure.
It's there, it's real, but it's not even prestige at that point.
No, I don't know.
It's just insane.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation. Is money clearly adds some degree of prestige.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's not as carbon as it perhaps used to be.
I think a big part of the reason in that, though, is that the team ecosystem is better than it's ever been before. The sponsorships and the sustainability by just being on a team, it was never that good. It used to be if you were sponsored by a team, maybe they covered your travel, maybe you lived in a team house.
I just got
maybe
a mouse mat
they
and a
fed
TeamSpeak
you,
server.
But you'd be lucky to get a decent salary that was livable, and that is no longer the case.
Sure.
So it makes that prize money a lot less
I don't see it necessary. Yeah, precisely. But then the follow-up question to this, which we seem to agree on, is then where does prestige come from if it isn't the prize purse? What makes us think an event is prestigious? For me, I'm thinking crowd. I think that audience, in-person experience of an event, I feel like that makes the event for me. My favorite event, or one of them, ESL One Cologne, because it's a sold-out 11,000 people cheering for a video game.
That stadium is awesome too.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous stadium.
Yeah,
which helps.
No, as long, yeah, that is definitely a big part of the picture. I think every game is always going to have their world finals as well, and that's where the prestige is going to be. There's nothing like a BlizzCon. If you're a Blizzard gamer, there's nothing like a BlizzCon. Winning a BlizzCon is the ultimate title.
Yeah.
The international will always be that.
Yeah.
And I think it's crucial to retain that premier event, maybe 2 a year, where it is worth more than everything else.
So you like the grand final,
absolutely,
the world finals, the conclusion,
You've got everybody needs to have the Super Bowl, their World Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again that's something that works for traditional sports. That why not carry it on?
Yeah, I mean, I have 100% faith that there will always humans will always be drawn to like step 1, step 2, and then here's the big step 3. They've made it storylines. We like to see people climb a ladder and overcome. So I guess that culmination, that final, is always a necessity.
You know, this is a tangent again, but
let's do it.
I'm really surprised we don't have a WCG in modern day, like an actual Olympics for esports.
Do we need one? I feel like your nationality is so irrelevant for gaming.
But
and
Overwatch
esports.
World Cup does really well, right? And that's one specific game.
Yeah.
And people do go nuts for it. There's a lot of national pride. I remember walking into the stadium at BlizzCon last year, watching Korea versus USA. The energy in that venue was surreal. These were not necessarily the best teams in the world, but some of the best individuals playing together. And it was something special. I watched the old WCG VODs from 2004.
You think it changes something?
Where, it's just a different product.
Yeah.
And I think national pride is a big part of being a fan.
I mean, I'm from the UK, so we haven't got anyone to be proud of, really, in any game. I mean that fighting games and FIFA, I think we do okay, but neither of those tickle my pickle, so I haven't got anyone to cheer for yet. Maybe I should pick up the mouse and keyboard and then cheer for me.
You might have to.
Yeah, it's like a self-confidence thing. But, okay. So we did our tangent again. Yep. We were talking about pride and prestige, and we're talking about the fact that it's no longer necessarily tied to prize purses in esports. It's much more the experience viewer at home or the viewer in the arena. Like I do wish, and I still think, that getting butts in seats in an esports arena is still one of the biggest challenges of the next 3 to 5 years. Like some people do it so well, but I think there are some incredible events that don't have butts in seats, and I don't know what the problem is there. I don't think there's an absence of fans.
Right.
I mean, location, availability, there's so many facets to this discussion.
I wonder what the answer to that is, because esports is something where I feel a lot of the viewers are younger generation, people that are in college now, younger than that. That's a big part of the demographic. I did an event in Vegas where they went around to colleges and they promoted like crazy, and the results were phenomenal. Right. And I've done other events in Vegas where there was no one there.
There was a fantastic event, DreamHack Masters. They did it in Vegas. Incredible. We were at the MGM Grand. They had this like TI Evo level like stadium, and they just couldn't fill seats.
Oh.
Like it was gorgeous. It was like one of the best venues we've had, and unfortunately, just no one wanted to get on a plane, go to the desert, but get a hotel and watch.
And I feel like that's how we've always approached it. We've always approached esports with a global mentality that people will travel to come to watch this.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but I think tapping into local markets is something that is going to be a step forward, and that's why one of the things Owl I think will be doing very well, because collegiate is a huge part of the ecosystem now. It's becoming more and more relevant, especially in North America, because
in gaming,
in esports, really? There's scholarships. We've got TESPA having TESPA chapters all over the place. I know many people that were involved in TESPA and involved in Heroes of the Dorm that have moved on to being full-time employed in Owl, working for NYXL, running teams. Like a guy named Dan Lee, he works for NYXL now, and that's people that went to school. They made esports their hobby, not even their job. That wasn't their major.
Yeah.
And they're now pushing forward into the industry and getting relevant jobs.
But those aren't examples of collegiate esports athletes. That's something else.
Oh, he actually did place top 4. He played top 4 in Heroes of the Dorm. So he was an athlete that moved on. But he also was deeply involved in the chapter. So I think you kind of got to do both in a lot of senses.
That's very foreign to me. I have no, I keep seeing occasional news articles which are like, oh, this university I've never heard of somewhere in the US is doing gaming scholarships, and I'm like, I feel like they've just got buzzwords and they found someone who wanted to do a course for 8 people.
It's baby steps.
Yeah.
It really is baby steps.
I don't feel like that's, and do correct me if I'm wrong, I don't consider that to be like contributing to the ecosystem right now. I think that's more just people know it's popular and want to do something, you know?
I think we're looking at the future though, right?
Future,
I think it's the foundation that is going to become more and more relevant as time goes on. Right now, I'd agree. Yeah. It's not like a huge player in the space, but we got to consider all angles. And I really do think that that's going to become, especially in North America, going to become more relevant. And I just kind of on the other side of things is, we're seeing this in Smash Brothers a little bit. We have CSL, they're another organization that runs stuff, they do a lot of fighting game stuff.
Okay.
They're basically creating little pockets of talent. So by having more competition between schools, you're encouraging people to train together and get better. So in a way, that will breed talent.
Something really interesting, speaking of schools, and we're talking of getting the school system involved in esports. Mm-hmm. The way that Denmark has been doing it recently, have you heard about any of the Counter-Strike stuff in schools?
No.
So this is really interesting.
Like high school or?
Like high school, but they're using it as a tool to teach kids about a plethora of different things. I won't be able to summarize it as well as Anders does. If you don't know him, check him out. Anders Bloom, very talented Dane, and very passionate about Counter-Strike's impact on youths. But they're using this game. They have coaches, they teach, let me give you a good example. It's kind of like an after-school club. It teaches you the same skills like playing football for a after-school club would do, and yet it's supported by the school structure.
That's amazing.
And apparently they're having wonderful results, both in turnout and in the outcomes. They all clearly set some objectives. I wish I had them off the tip of my tongue, but the whole school system. The Prime Minister of Denmark did a speech at the most recent event in Copenhagen, and he was like, "You are athletes. I see you." And their school system are doing Counter-Strike lessons.
That's incredible.
This is a game that was just a mod of Half-Life that someone made in their bedroom. And now there is a school, there are schools around the country, in a country of this world. The Prime Minister, the leader of that country, is talking to them and financing it, and it's a video game. That's just wild to me.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
But it's
2019, man.
Yeah, moving forward, it's that kind of gratification, and confirmation that what we're doing with esports is not just a niche, right? So many people said it was just going to be a hobby. Obviously, we're well past that point, but it's super cool to hear they're doing that. We do have high school esports in America as well. It's definitely in its infancy, even more so than collegiate.
But do you still feel like esports is still quite niche? I know that's going to sound weird, but let me preface. Can I explain myself?
Yeah.
So I travel a lot, and I get into a lot of cabs. And whenever so what do you do, man? What are you doing here? And I go, video games, presenter, esports. They actually get paid, sponsors. I do my usual elevator pitch, explaining what I do. And 99% of the time, they've never heard of it. They don't believe you. You have to prove it.
Yeah.
I feel like esports is everywhere, but I work in it and enjoy it.
I think we got to look at age though, because the average age of these people you're probably running into are probably 35 and older.
Sure.
And it is the exact same story. They might have heard about Ninja on TV or something, heard about Ninja being on Ellen or whatever show he might have been on, and that's their connection to it, and that's it. Because that whole bigger world, it's not even geared towards them. At this point, esports has kind of realized this is the future generation. This is going to be people that are 25 and younger, and they're the people playing the games anyways. They're the people that are good at the games, good enough to become athletes, push into that world, and live in that world.
But I don't think that necessarily the generation ahead of us, that makes sense, the older generation, the one before us, how does time work? I don't understand.
We don't know.
Anyway, I don't think it's necessarily inaccessible.
Definitely.
I would love to see more pushes.
I'm in my 30s. We've got guys like Red Eye and Scoots that have been here for a long time. We're just chatting with Red Eye.
But those guys, they were and still are, one of few. And now there is a clear baseline. Like most people who know what Fortnite is, know that like esports exists.
You know, I think a big part of it is just the
18.
fact that they didn't grow up with the internet the way that we did.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Because Twitch is not their first form of media. They go to TV. And esports on television, it's been tried.
It's visible.
It's been tried, but it doesn't really work that well. The way that programmed commercial breaks need to happen on television, it really does not play off that well.
The E-League project is a fantastic discussion.
Yeah.
Because they have put so much time. This is TBS. You know, this is big Showtime, like mainstream television, really giving it a good go with esports. Like they have done Rocket League, they've done fighting games, they've done, you know, you name it. Counter-Strike, of course, was the one I took most of an interest in because they managed to put a competitive video game about terrorists and bombs on TBS TV and make it entertaining, snappy, and polished as hell. And they achieved that. They achieved all of those things. And there's still people tweeting going, what are these nerds doing on my, where's the basketball? Well, this is so stupid, oh my God. You know, like there was still a lot of that lashback, but they deal with it. They handled that, and it was
I think they are the one outlier example, right? I think they
made TV work, I do believe
they have. Yeah. But it's still a medium that really is served best on something like Twitch at the end of the day, in my opinion.
Yeah, because that's what happens. I just realized how that conversation with my taxi driver goes. They usually go, oh, you're presenting, where can I watch? And immediately I go, And the one time it was easy was when I was doing TBS. I go, actually, TBS at 11 o'clock, you'll be able to
catch
it.
Oh, cool, they get that, that's their language.
Suddenly it's like, oh, it's legitimate, it's a real thing.
Right.
But I go, it's twitch.tv, and they're like, okay, so I'm going to a URL.
Right.
What you, like, suddenly I've lost interest. And but you feel like you have to justify it. Like, no, there's hundreds of thousands of people are watching from this website. Yeah, but it's not like a channel. I can't my remote doesn't go to Twitch.
I mean, even ESPN, who has done stuff on TV in the past, has kind of seemingly moved more towards being online and looking at that platform.
Streaming,
Right, yeah, just the streaming content seems to be a lot easier to do. So it's interesting, the whole legitimacy of it. And but if you go to a high school and talk about Twitch, they all know. Yeah. They know what you're talking about, right? You go to a college, they know what you're talking about. So
it's just at the moment it's an unbridged
generational thing,
gap. But it's still starting to become more and more visible. Like, I think Ninja is a conversation to have. I know he's a conversation I'm sure many people have had many times. But that is a bridge. That is a bridge to the uninitiated, esports and uninitiated, and its existence. Like, he's on a Red Bull can. I bought a Red Bull from a shop and Ninja was on it.
How cool is that? It's happened before, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
it's at Mountain Dew, Final Boss.
There was a World of Warcraft Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
No,
they had a player. I think it wasn't Walshy. I don't think there was a Halo player on Mountain Dew.
I wouldn't be surprised if when Vitality
ago.
Was at his peak, he did something as well. Vitality, Coca-Cola or something.
But it's always the kind of thing where it's like, oh yeah, that's just like a NASCAR driver, I'm going to ignore it kind of thing.
Yeah,
but you see Ninja and it's just like, whoa, I've heard of him.
The guy blew up. He was on the cover of GQ, right? Like, insane. And it's all, that is a lot of brand new eyeballs reading the word esports and perhaps being interested to understand what it necessarily is.
No, he alone is going to have more of an impact on this industry than any human ever.
Yeah. Half of it, if not more, is completely out of his control. Yeah. Like, it was just, once people latched onto a name, and, like, you could have used so many people. I'm not discrediting him. He's made a lot of money. He's very successful, very talented, etc. But it could have been anyone. Like, he did all the right things, and he was smart in the way that his content was. It was child safe, and it was X, and it was Y, and it was consistent, and yes, lots of boxes ticked. But there are so many other people that could have been the poster boy and the bridge into the mainstream world. Ninja just
it was bound to happen.
It worked well. It had to happen.
Yeah.
I think it was coming.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just glad it's gone this well, and it's him that's doing it.
We couldn't have asked for a better guy for this to happen to,
yeah.
right? Because Ninja is sincere, and he's been around for a long time. He's been in the space. He's very talented, and he's very dedicated to the craft, and more than just esports, but just being a good human and like a representative.
So we've talked about the now.
Yeah.
And we've talked a little bit about the past, where it started, the likes of you referenced Korea as kind of the start of a lot of this, and how we've branched off into a lot of different directions, all with a very similar goal. But what about the future? What are your expectations? You said in 2020 they want to have home games in arenas for the Overwatch League. That's a conversation we could spend hours on. But what's the future in your mind? Where does...
So if OWL becomes the mainstay, it's going to be really interesting because the thing about OWL is it guarantees players that are involved in teams really good salaries. It guarantees them awesome opportunity and just like a safe medium, right? Once you're in OWL, you're set, you're good. It's kind of like LCS where it's a very controlled environment, right? Yeah. OWL is one piece. By moving around and going to various cities, you are suddenly able to bring in fans, I think, more easily with OWL's format because you've got NYXL, and NYXL has names like Rick Fox tied to it. You've got names like the Yankees tied to it, right?
Yeah.
And New York City. So it's a lot easier to just be like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm a fan of New York. This is my city. I'm now a fan of this team.
So you truly believe this?
I truly believe that can work in for America in particular, right?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's different in Europe, I'm not sure, because you guys have so many smaller countries where like, I'm a fan of Germany because I'm German, right? But you don't say like, I'm from Connecticut.
Yeah.
I can't just be like, well, yeah, I'm gonna root for that Connecticut guy, but actually I can in single player games, and I do.
Sure.
Right, if there's ever a guy from my state or my region that competes in a fighting game, I'm watching his matches. I will find time to see their matches.
The national pride thing definitely exists. Like, I was in, ESL 1 Cologne, I said one of my favorite events. It's in Germany, Cologne, Germany, and a German team who were not expected to get out of groups got onto the grand final stage. And hearing 9,000 to 10,000 Germans witnessing a Cinderella story of a team that shouldn't be here, shouldn't even be on the stage, but winning games against the world's best, that was intoxicating, and a lot of people loved that. Like,
there's nothing better.
They're witnessing like German, like national pride, underdog story, Cinderella finish, like absurd. I get it. I can see how it enhances that. But for me, like I appreciate characters much more than I do.
Oh, it's an essential thing, but I mean that's true for traditional sports too. You look at it, you've got your Curry. Everybody's talking about Curry, right? Sure. Or Kawhi, like they're talking about these top athletes. They're always going to draw that, and even if you don't like the teams they play on, you're always going to look at Michael Jordan, look at Kobe Bryant, look at those players, and be like, wow, they are the best at their craft. But you're going to root against them if they're playing against your team. You're not going to be mad when they play awesomely, but you have your home team. You have that jersey that you wear.
Okay, so they're separate in your mind.
Absolutely. I think that is 100% a separate kind of fandom.
I hadn't even considered that. I always just considered fandom. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think, that's really been proven in traditional sports, right? Like, I live, like I said, in the state of Connecticut, which is right between Boston and New York. We don't have any teams of our own.
Yeah, so what happens then? What happens if you don't live in New York?
You've got a ton of people that are fans of the New York Giants and the New England Patriots. And when you go to a bar to watch a game, you always got those fans, kind of butting heads, which creates a really awesome atmosphere. Yeah. And that will become the thing with Boston Uprising, NYXL. And I cannot wait to see that unfold if it does succeed in doing it. And even now, I see people come in, I'll just be grocery shopping and there'll be a kid in a Boston Uprising hoodie. And that's really cool.
That's
because
crazy.
I rarely see a TSM shirt or Cloud9 shirt, which surprises me because why should it be any different?
Because they're holding your hand with this fandom. They're like,
maybe.
Hey, you live here, you can like these people, and then you go, and then you just gobble it up, and you're like, yes, now I support these people. Like,
it's what it is.
It's
You're
what
right.
it is.
It's hand holding.
It's hand holding, but it's pretty legit. Like, it works. If I was born in Manchester and I didn't support Manchester United, I just realized because you've been doing all your basketball things I don't understand. I'm giving you a football example now.
Okay.
Sorry, soccer.
There
example.
you go.
So like if you're born in that city, you don't support that team. Like you're gonna have trouble. Like you have to.
There's an expectation by birth of being a resident.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is.
So and then there's a separate of just appreciation of skill, of appreciation of ability.
Right.
You'd like to see them succeed, but when they're against your team, you're still fine.
And even if your home team sucks, you still root for them, right? And that's just how it goes.
Yeah, that's how it's always going to work. So listen, we've got probably another about 5 minutes. I wrote down some things you wanted to talk about. Is there anything you desperately feel like we haven't covered yet? Where would you like to take these last few minutes?
I think just kind of looking at the collegiate side of things and where that's going to go.
Okay, because I'm really not in the know here, so fill me in.
So really what I'm hoping for and what I think will be happening with the collegiate scene is it's, again, just going to breed more talent. I think by having these local pools of people that have the tools to learn. I got reached out to by a professor, and I horribly never had the time to follow up, because they're doing a new program at their school for basically management of esports teams. So this is a school that has sports psychology and management of teams as a degree that you can get in that school. And they're already doing a program for esports, right? And the whole psychology thing, because of these teams like OWL, where they have like 12 players that live on site, where the nutrition is monitored, their activity, with workout is monitored.
Oh yeah.
And your mental and physical health are linked together, and that's becoming more and more relevant in the space for a lot of these cyber athletes.
E-gamer.
E-gamers.
No, but e-gamers aside, actually I want to focus on that for a second, because the sports psychologist part of it, the psychology, the mental games of it is so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, there was a shift. It was like just after everyone started getting six figures, but before like we were in the millions for prizes. In that middle ground, everyone was like looking for an edge, and suddenly, you looked and realized, okay, well, we keep throwing away these leads, which are determining hundreds of thousands of dollars of prize money. Perhaps we could invest into resolving it. Like, I just think that's a good sign. That's a big peg in esports is like climb, is that we are the money side of it, whatever, but the pursuit of greatness has gotten to the point now where you are looking inside yourself as opposed to the results and the very primitive definitions of success. It's
right.
pretty cool.
And to see that happening in colleges and whatnot
they're training the next generation
to
for a
be
job
better.
that only existed
in the last
2
few
years
years.
ago?
Yeah.
They're already starting. Wow. So I guess that means it sticks around then, right?
I think so. I don't think it's going anywhere, man.
No? Okay, that's a relief. Well, we are. We should probably take a break. Absolute pleasure, dude. Thank you so much. This
Cheers.
is Jake. How do they find you on Twitter again?
Solid Jake GG.
Solid Jake GG. Rolls off the tongue, and I think we're going to go ahead and roll to a bit of a break. When we do come back, so much more. Paul Challoner is going to be joining us. You probably know him as Red Eye. He's going to be talking all about his podcast, and so much more exciting things coming up. We're going to be talking to some voice actresses later. It is going to be a blast. This was Jake, Solid Jake GG. We'll see you after the break.